Well, his name's Sean Cannell. He's with Think Media, and this guy is a beast. He has over 1 million subscribers. When you have over 1 million subscribers, you're doing something right. But when people look at you, you're obviously seasoned. You're obviously the guy that I would send people to. If you want to learn about YouTube, you're the guy. So let me ask you this. There's people thinking right now, am I too late? Are they too late? Are they right in the middle of it? Where do you see them at?
Why do I choose YouTube? Because it's just a no-brainer. Like there's no other option in my opinion. And right now we're living through an era where it's still underpriced is to invest in it. It's free on the one hand, but I even just mean it's like real estate. It's like saying there's still vacancies in prime real estate in the center of Manhattan for you to set up shop, set up your influence, set up your authority, set up your thought leadership. And there's a reason I think why the most consistently influential entrepreneurs leverage YouTube to build their influence in so many different industries.
Oh, here we go.
The other way, so it's all good either way.
Here we are with Sean Cannell. He is one of the biggest internet YouTube trainers out there, and I'm super excited. I actually met him through a mutual friend. I'm actually attending the same church he's attending, and this guy is a beast. And if you're looking to take your business to the next level, if you're learning about branding, digital marketing, and especially his specialty is YouTube, he is one of the best, if not the best, YouTube trainers in the world, in my opinion. So, Sean, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, Troy, thanks for having me on. So fired up to be here with your community.
Well, Sean, let's get right into it. I got a couple questions for you. I actually want to first of all, tell us your story. How did you become one of the biggest YouTube trainers out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think back, today, recently was just featured on entrepreneur.com again. CNBC did like a mini documentary about our company and about how much we're doing with affiliate marketing right now and different things like that. We're over 2 million subscribers, over 125 million video views. And I'm just a small town kid, college dropout, grew up on kind of a farm an hour north of Seattle, Washington. And so to think about, wrote a book called YouTube Secrets, and it's the best-selling YouTube strategy book in the world. And it's just been a really crazy journey. But of course, I didn't start that way. And just like any entrepreneur, multiple seasons of failure, different experiments and different things you've been through. And my story was I started shooting video for my local church in 2003. And as a punk kid, cocky, I started interning, and the youth pastor handed me a video camera and said, hey, start making videos for the youth group. And this was 2 years before YouTube even started. And I'll tell you this, your first videos will be your worst videos, And luckily I was doing mine like before the internet or not really before the internet, but before YouTube and social media. And so I started making weekly video announcements for my church, which was kind of like doing the video reps. And, we encourage people, you got to post content. You want to get awareness. You want to build your influence. You want to build your authority. You got to be sharing your thought leadership, sharing about answering specific questions. What does your business do to help people? And I was getting this content muscle built way back in 2003. And so fast forward a few years, in 2009, started a business called Clear Vision Media. And, to kind of make a long story short, that was a major turning point for me as well. 2009 was the year my wife almost died. And we got married super young. We got married at 21 back in 2005. And, I think we got married young because as conservative church kids, we just wanted to have sex, if I'm honest. That's really what it was probably about. But, a couple years of marriage, hustling. I was doing ministry, volunteering at church and waiting tables at Red Robin. And she was working multiple jobs to kind of support our vision for the future. But she got really sick with a chronic illness called gastroparesis. And it dropped her to such a low weight that eventually she was hospitalized for 6 days. And not only was that happening in 2009, but we had just bought a couple houses because we were believing in the investment, and we just declared our income, and the big short happens. And so a rental property that tenants lose their job, they're not paying. My wife's health's under attack. We can't float that. We have roommates, like they move out. We can't afford the house that we're in. And on top of that, too, the church I was volunteering at, some senior leaders stole some money. And so that started to fall apart as well. So in 2009, everything around us was falling apart. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate that, especially lived through that recession. But it was like from every angle. And it was like, God, why is this happening? But it was also like, what are we going to do? And that was when the fire for me was really lit at another level. Like, I got to double down as a leader. I got to double down as a provider. And I had been doing YouTube for my church. 2007, we started a channel. I've been doing video, and I've been studying like affiliate marketing and how to make money online. And at that point, it was like an all-in moment. And we had a couple other, career things while I was building up the side hustle, but I just got laser focused on, man, there's never been a greater time to create extra streams of revenue and side hustle income. And I think that even this conversation is so interesting because in the midst of a global pandemic and so much racial division and a lot of different things, right now more than ever, I think people need to be getting online, getting on video, sharing their message, live streaming, leaning into YouTube. And I hope and pray that even this moment right now this very conversation we're having could actually be a turning point for those listening, like it was for me in 2009, to be like, man, you really got to lean into this stuff. Because now with a multiple 7-figure business and all the medical bills and all the different things that come along the years, and actually a son on the way now, we're a couple months away from, it's crazy to look back, all that we've been through, all the pain, all the hardship, all the ups, all the downs, trying to figure this thing out. But I'm here to say, man, online video is, I believe, the best way on the planet to share and scale your message right now. And so that's what we help people do. And it's been quite the journey.
Well, let's talk about that. First of all, I love the fact that, we're brothers in Christ, and we met through some mutual friends, and you invited me to your church. And when they reopen up, I'm going to be there, but I'll be online with you this week for sure. But let's talk about there's so many different platforms. And I want to kind of take, we're going to have an advanced audience and a beginner audience here. But why, with all the different platforms, why YouTube? Why did you choose YouTube? Why are you crushing YouTube?
YouTube is the only platform where your content lives forever. And what I mean by that is it was very intentional in choosing YouTube. I mean, we love social media. Social media, new statistics was just released by a Hootsuite study that half of the world's population is on social media. Not half the world that's on the internet. 1 out of 2 people on planet Earth use social media now. So it is irresponsible not to be using social media as an entrepreneur. But to even go deeper, I believe it's irresponsible not to be using YouTube, because the problem with social media, in my opinion, and we do Facebook ads and Instagram ads and organic content on LinkedIn and all the kinds of platforms. But when I think about these social media platforms, they're feeds, and they're like content monsters, like Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. Come on, growing up. And they're always hungry. You always got to feed them something else. If you go live on Facebook Live today, not a lot of people are going to watch that a week from now, and no one's going to watch that a year from now. The best practices on these platforms is you should be posting on Instagram every day on your profile. You should be doing multiple Instagram stories a day. You should go live a couple times a week. You should be posting IGTVs so like there's this constant demand to be keeping up with these platforms. YouTube's different. YouTube is a content library. YouTube is a search engine. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And so the reason I love YouTube, where I realized investing in YouTube was investing in good ground, and there was even wisdom, is because it's what business owners know about. It's leverage. It's that YouTube's like a fine wine. It gets better with age. And when you have the ability to put out a video on YouTube, if you do it in the right way, you don't just get views today like the feed of other social media. You can get views for weeks, months, and years to come. The content library we've built up on Think Media produces around 4,000 to 6,000 views every 60 minutes. Every hour, like us hanging out for an hour, 4,000 people will hear our message that are discovering our content organically. And a couple ways to think about that is, this is why everyone listening needs to answer specific questions, put content in front, put content out that will attract their ideal target audience, and then connect those that watch those videos to how they can go to another level with them, take them to a next step. You know, maybe you want to have them watch a webinar, you want to have them jump on the phone with you, schedule a consultation, go, you know, sign up on an application to do a home listing, list their home with you. It doesn't matter what you want to achieve. YouTube is this chance to meet people. And Google released a stat that said 65% of people go to YouTube looking for an answer to a specific question. You know, maybe you could relate to it. I think about me too. Sometimes you're like, oh, my dishwasher broke. Like, you know, HP 5212, how to fix the thing. And like, there it is. It's on YouTube, you know, like whatever it is, you have all these questions being answered on YouTube. Well, people are asking questions about fitness, how to gain weight, lose weight, how to save money, invest money, what to do in real estate. They're asking questions about how to grow their social media following, how to do marketing, what camera to buy, what mattress to buy. Like, it's all there. And YouTube is the center of the online universe in terms of video. It is town square of video. So again, it's a free platform, so it is irresponsible not to be there. And the final few thoughts, just to like guilt every entrepreneur and business owner listening into why you have to go all in on YouTube, is when you do a video well, I'm not saying that it's easy. Like, you got to put energy into producing that video, and you might just shoot it on your smartphone, but you want to be thoughtful in the strategy around the video, the optimization, things like your title and your thumbnail. You put effort into the video, but a YouTube video that ranks in search, a YouTube video that gets sucked into the YouTube algorithms, starts being viewed for weeks, months, and years to come. So I view each video as like an employee that you pay once, and then that keeps working for you for weeks, months, and years to come. Mm-hmm. Leverage. What would it be like to build an army and duplicate yourself? For those that have done sales on the phone or gone door to door, what would it be like to duplicate yourself and be able to talk to 4,000 people an hour, leverage on autopilot? And guess what? You're not invading someone's privacy by cold calling them or knocking on their door. They're actually coming to you. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. They're searching, they find you, you build a relationship, know, like, and trust is accelerated, and then you're able to invite them to go to the next step with you, whether it's entertainers or real estate or digital marketing. Like YouTube, again, it takes a lot of energy. It can take money in terms of maybe production or team or delegation. But if you have a vision for the payoff of it and for that wine value going up, come on, that fine wine getting better with age. If you have a vision for that value of how it'll impact your influence and your authority tomorrow, then you'll put in the work today to establish yourself on YouTube.
Well, his name's Sean Cannell. He's with Think Media, and this guy is a beast. He has over 1 million subscribers. When you have over 1 million subscribers, you're doing something right. But when people look at you, you're obviously seasoned. You're obviously the guy that I would send people to. It's easy. If you want to learn about YouTube, you're the guy. So let me ask you this. There's people thinking right now, am I too late? Are they too late? Are they right in the middle of it? Where do you see them at?
They're not too late at all. There's countless examples of one. I would ask them this. I would say, you know, is it too late to start a coffee brand? Is it too late to write a book? You know, 1 million books are written a year now in the United States alone. At least that's a stat I looked up. Who knows? We know it's an astronomical number, but there's still the top 20, top 50, top 100 business books every year. You know that romance novels and science fiction novels, they're written, but there's still new ones getting discovered every year. Am I saying it's going to be easy? No. Am I saying it's going to be worth it? Yes. And I think the goal is different is better than better. My favorite example is, if you were going to you treat opening a YouTube channel just like opening a small business or any size business. It takes 2 to 3 years for a business to be profitable. It can sometimes happen faster. Sometimes it takes longer. And if I was to open a coffee shop here in Las Vegas where we're recording this, I would be showing up, you know, every morning, 4 or 5 a.m. to set up, you know, even just to lead the team, to manage, to market. And I'd be there all day, and I would grind 6-7 days a week, you know, unless I'm like Chick-fil-A and I'm closed on Sunday, for years, investing in employees. Maybe I'm taking out a loan. Maybe I'm bootstrapping to get known And you'd ask yourself, you know, could you still start a coffee shop today? Was there competition? Sure, there's competition, but you could still start, like, could you still start a restaurant? Like, yeah, like there's always going to be competition. And I grew up in Seattle. And so the home of Starbucks, and my dad used to take me to the first Starbucks. It's not on Pike Place Market. It's actually a few blocks over, and they only sold beans at first. The first one, I think, that actually sold, they would brew coffee for you, that was actually the second one, but you would just get beans there. And so I thought, like, back about Starbucks now, dominant force, like taking over the world. Like, why did they have the audacity to start a new coffee brand? There was already then plenty of competition. There's Pete's Coffee. There was, you know, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts. There was Seattle's Best Coffee. There was all your local coffee shops. Growing up in Seattle, and maybe somebody grew up in a town like this where there was an espresso stand on every single corner, like all kinds of, like, it was a big coffee area up in Seattle, Washington, Pacific Northwest. And yet Starbucks still showed up on the scene, and they started a new brand, and now they've taken over the world. And so I think a big question, Troy, is really not, is it too late? It's just, what is going to be your strategy, and how are you going to be different? How are you going to stand out? Seth Godin, Purple Cow. How are you going to be different? And when I think about Starbucks, I don't personally really like their coffee. I still give them tons of money, but like, they kind of are like, it's just sort of like average, but it's consistent. And you do have a place where you can get some Wi-Fi. And if I want some really good coffee, I'm going to look for a hipster coffee shop. That's on one spectrum. Why can those still start? My friends just opened a coffee shop in Seattle. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, we're coming from a different angle. I got this partner. It's this blend. Because here's the big one. There's a market for it. I think, yeah, there's a lot of competition, but there's also over 2 billion monthly active users on YouTube. And more people are coming on YouTube and the internet every day. And so, yes, competition for sure, but how are you going to be different? Are you the hipster coffee shop and you have a niche market, and the person brewing the coffee's got like that twisted up waxed mustache, tattoos, gauged ears, they're doing like a pour over? Or are you like the Dunkin' Donuts and it's like let's just get you in and out, but like coffee's pretty good, but it's a different deal? Or are you in the middle and you're the third place coffee, Starbucks, and you know, it's just because you got the machine, you got the brand, you're everywhere. Like by the way, all of these coffee shops and more succeed, but they found their corner of the market. That's one of the things we help people do, but that's what people got to do, is you got to figure out your difference and then plant your flag on YouTube and then stick with it and take over.
Well, you do a great job at that. You know, you talk about finding your niche. I like to dive into that a little bit, because one of the things, you get so much free content on YouTube. And for those of you watching it, go ahead, YouTube Think Media right now with Sean Cannell. He's got a lot of great stuff out there. But one of the things that I liked is how important, you know, if you can explore finding your niche. You're talking about that, but what do you do to, sorry about that, having a speaker system installed here.
Amazon, man, I know it's all day for me.
But what do you do to help people find a niche? How important is it, and what do you do to help people find a niche?
Yeah, a couple things in order to find a niche. I think number one is, if you don't really know what you're doing yet and you're trying to figure out a niche on YouTube, maybe to start a new business, I like to talk about it at the intersection of your passion, your proficiency, and your profit. And so it's a great way to start a business as well. You say, well, number one, what are you passionate about? And in some cases, business, I don't actually think always has to be about passion. Sometimes it's about practicality. Sometimes it's about, wow, there's an opportunity, there's a market for this, and let's set a business up around this to run its own. But if you're going to build maybe a lifestyle brand or something around a personal brand, it's probably going to be at your intersection of your passion, but passion is not enough. I am passionate about music, but I did not start a YouTube channel teaching people how to sing or singing songs, because no one's going to watch that. You don't want to hear this guy sing. That's why you also need proficiency. So I think about, what do you know a lot about? What do you research? What have you studied? What do people ask you for information on? Sometimes we have a curse of knowledge. We don't even know what we know. But think about what your friends, they go, man, my marriage didn't work out. Like, how did you guys stay married for so long? And they pull on your knowledge in that regard. We help people that have depth of knowledge in homeschool, in medicine, in real estate, in ketogenics, in CBD, in all these different areas. And there's also a proficiency, a knowledge there, an edge there. But passion and proficiency are not enough. You also want to think about profit. How can you profit from that channel if it's going to be related to business? And when I think about profit too, I do think about market and market size. You know, in business, we call it a TAM. It's your total addressable market. And so sometimes you also might say, wow, there's a lot of competition. I'm in tech. I review cameras and lighting, and that's one aspect of our business, helping people find the tools to create content, to go live. What webcam do you need? What microphone? What lighting? And that's actually a highly competitive niche, but it's also, there's high demand for it. And so does the market, is there a lot of market demand? Competition actually should be and can be an encouraging thing. It's a good thing, because high competition may insinuate, it could mean market saturation, but it also could mean market opportunity. And when I even look at tech, there's tons of people doing what I do. I got tons of competitors and whatnot. And yet I still think that the surface is not even being scratched. You know, here in Las Vegas, we know that every year CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, comes to Las Vegas, and 200,000 people flood with all these vendors. And when I walk through those floors, I go, man, tech is not, we're not even scratching the surface. And this thing's accelerating so fast. So sometimes I think it could be overwhelming to look at competition, but the alternative is, what's the market size? So it's at the intersection of your passion, your proficiency, and your profit. But the other piece I would say is you don't necessarily want to differentiate your YouTube channel or your niche based on what you do. Because guess what? There's going to be a lot of other people doing what you do. You want to make your difference based on who you are. And I think this is one of the biggest opportunities for those listening, because your vibe will attract your tribe. You know, I teach YouTube tips, right? YouTube secrets. I've got, you know, our Think Marketing Chat. We teach a lot about YouTube. In my niche of other YouTube experts, we actually have a pretty great relationship, and we're all well connected, and we're very friendly. We'll collab with each other. I can name you 25 other YouTube teachers right now. Like that's crazy. Like they're on YouTube, like teaching YouTube. And here's what I've learned. You think, wow, well, if they do it, then that means I can't. But man, your vibe will attract your tribe. I think about the fact that we have people that are teaching that, and people might think this, oh man, there's people that are also doing what I'm doing, or they've already created a course. Dude, no, you can create one too. Like, you want to write a book? Someone's already wrote a book on that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're going to write a book on business? Well, there's already enough books on business. Well, no, people they'll always be consuming more content, but they'll be connecting, listen, with different people. Don't be different based on what you do, but on who you are. So what I would encourage people when it comes to your niche is, it's amplifying your values. It's amplifying your strengths. It's amplifying, not trying to be somebody different. People will connect with your age, your gender, your ethnicity, your background. And sometimes your niche is your target audience. Like, oh, I teach YouTube tips to millennial women. There's millennial women in my community, but if you niche down on just because as a millennial woman, this is how I use it. I hope, you know, business professional, like whatever it is. So it's those distinctions, that reflection of who you are, and amplifying your values. You know, there's a reason some people like Dave Ramsey for their financial advice. Some people like Robert Kiyosaki. Some people like my friend Garrett Gunderson, and a million other opportunities. So some people go, I also hate that person. Like, right. What do you mean cut up my credit cards? Are you crazy, Dave? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leverage debt and grow my real estate portfolio. I'm on Team Robert. Your vibe will attract your tribe. You're different. You have different nuances. So I would encourage people to really lean in and amplify their difference. Don't try to be somebody else. Be you times 2. And that's what will really connect with people on YouTube.
Well, the power of YouTube is tremendous for building a brand, building people's business. There's so much power and influence on that. Is that the number one thing that's holding people back, though? Or what do you think is the number one thing that's holding people back from starting a YouTube channel? And what tips can you give people that are looking at this video that may be holding them back, that why they need to get started, you know, what they can do to get started? What's holding most people back, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, if you will, objections. And, you know, I think you can either make excuses or you can get results. But sometimes excuses can be legitimate. You just have to find a way to get over them. And so I think one of them is tech. generally feeling overwhelmed by like, okay, well, how do I create? And I would encourage people, just grab your smartphone, you know, be in a relatively well lit area, like in front of a window with relatively low ceilings, and start, you know, talking to your phone. Like, just don't shoot a video on a railroad track while the train is, you know, like the airport tarmac. Like, just be aware of your, write this down, you know, AVL, your audio, video, and your lighting. And, you know, it doesn't mean you have to invest in that. It's just, how's my audio going to sound? How's the lighting? I'm not in a dark dungeon trying to film this video in my basement at night. I'm going to turn some lights on. Audio, video, lighting. And the video, man, our smartphones these days shoot HD video, 4K video. So don't let tech hold you back. And we have a whole channel, Think Media, as you mentioned, that will help you on that regard. But you want to start before you're ready and just punch fear in the face. So I think one is tech. I think two is the kind of imposter syndrome. It's kind of like the, what am I going to say? Getting over ourselves, you know, like, what am I going to be weird on camera? I mean, public speaking is something that we are all afraid of. If you're going to be on camera, like, it's one of the greatest fears people have. And so I'd encourage people, you truly do have to just punch fear in the face. You got to start messy, start before you're ready, and be okay that your first videos are going to be your worst videos. Practice in public and just start. If you really want to, if you want to have wealth tomorrow, you need to invest today. And so if you want to have influence on YouTube tomorrow and be really positioned to be a dominant voice in your space 3 years from now, you got to put out some bad videos today. So don't worry. And people say, well, I don't want people to see them.
Like a doorbell going off in the middle of an interview at home.
Exactly. Like, you got to be willing to just start, just hit the record button. And people think, what if, you know, if I put myself out now, I'm not really good on camera yet. I'm not, but it's like, the good news is when you start, you don't really need to worry about a lot of people judging you, because no one's going to be there yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, when you start, you got to be willing to like really take those first few videos. They're less about the results you're getting and more about kind of the process that's developing in you. You're practicing in public. You're just putting yourself out there, and use your season in obscurity when not a lot of people are watching to prepare you for popularity. Everybody wants to just snap their fingers and have 1 million subscribers, but I'm thankful I didn't have 1 million subscribers immediately, because I had a lot of opportunity to practice in public. Not a lot of people there while I was getting better as a communicator. So you just got to start. And then I think a big one is time, though, is like, man, I already got a lot on my plate. I already got a lot to do. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I also, like, if I invested in YouTube over time, I'd get results. It's also probably, if I did some push-ups and some sit-ups, I would actually probably have some muscles in a couple, you know, months or years too. I think we inherently know, but it's how are you going to make the time? And what I would ask people is, it's a priority thing. I would say that you're either you have one of two options right now. You either got time on your hands or you got money. If you're a business owner with money, it's a lack of priority. Hire somebody, delegate that thing, get that person to help you. You've solved other problems, you can solve this one too. And when you see the value of your authority, your influence building up, and the momentum that could build on YouTube, you invested again in your business to get it going without profit for a year or two. You just got to see that on the vision. Eventually you're going to have endless leads, endless influence, endless growth. But you invest today for that result that you want tomorrow. Conversely, you may be juggling a lot and you have more time on your hands and less money. I think that's also the beauty of YouTube, is it's a bootstrapper's dream. You might have to hustle and do family stuff and work stuff all day long, but chip away at it a few hours a week. You know, I really believe that in about 5 to 10 hours a week is all it takes to do one video a week. Delivering, knowing who your target audience is and what's your value proposition. Who are you trying to reach and how do you help them? Put out one video a week that's helpful, and just do that, and do that forever. Like what? Like, yeah, forever. Like, this is, YouTube is CNN. YouTube is NBC. YouTube is where people watch video, and there's the blurred lines between, it's on my smart TV, I can select Netflix or HBO Go or YouTube, and I jump between all of those, and I consume entertainment and education and these different forms of content right there. My friend, you're listening to this, you could be there. And that's what we're talking about
Let's
is
go.
your voice platformed, reaching around the world. And one video a week, and you grow into that thing, and you start your show. Now you look at everybody's show. I think that's maybe the final thing I would say, is that it's maybe not even fear or money or time. It's that sometimes we are unwilling to endure the perception of starting small and not having success, of putting in the energy and only seeing the 7 views and taking that as like a blow to our self-confidence, especially too when things around us are successful, especially too when maybe we've had past success. And it may be a humbling experience to do a YouTube show for a year and feel like you haven't got results. But that's why the spoils are there for everyone who's really willing to endure through that and take action. Because, you know, Steve Jobs said, business is mainly a game of attrition. If you actually can just wait it out and just keep standing while everybody else couldn't last, and why people couldn't keep it going, that's who is still standing today on YouTube. Those who are slow and steady wins, at least a video a week, consistently delivering value. Someone goes, man, how'd you experience so much overnight success? And you go, because overnight success only takes 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said too, because success is about the ability to adapt to change, and I think that's why people, when people, if you're looking at, do I start a YouTube channel? Do I take advantage of this platform? I think people are looking at this, Sean, and they're looking at, how do I become the hunted, not just a hunter? They want to be hunted. Okay. They want to have business come to them instead of them just pounding on the business. And I think that's what you have done at Think Media. Think Media has been doing such a great job training people, coaching people, and teaching people how they can take their business, whether they're the most advanced YouTuber in the world or they're just getting started. And I think that's important. So one of my final questions here, we're going to let you go in a second, but I want to ask you this. Since the coronavirus, since COVID-19, what have you seen? What shifts have you seen out there in business since that? How things changed?
Yeah, there's been multiple shifts and trends. A couple of them. Content consumption has gone up. That might be obvious, but it's gone up across the board. E-commerce order volume has gone up in e-commerce. So that's good news. And it speaks to the pivot, because when you're not only marketing online, you also want to be selling online. Additionally, we've noticed ad spend has gone down. That's a huge opportunity right now. And we've done some things to say. We recently did a challenge, and I said, how can we spend as much money as possible? How can we, there is a 90%, there's a fire sale right now while all these brands and marketers and businesses are pulling their money out of the system. I was like, how do we stay on offense and not play defense like everyone else? That's leveling out a little bit. And in an election year, a ton of election money is like, tons of money are going to be flooding the system. But there's even still a lot of opportunity with ad spend. And that includes YouTube ads. That's a whole nother massive, even where a friend of mine had his Facebook ads account banned, or shut down for a while recently, and maybe others have experienced that same thing. He's like, man, I got to learn YouTube, because you got to be diversified, right? You want to be able to not have your business stop when something like that happens. And so those are just a few of the trends that we're seeing. And for us, that meant we went all in. I mean, we were uniquely positioned to, like my friend John says, I've been learning to swim for the past 10 years, not realizing that the world was going to get flooded. We were perfectly positioned with the answer to the question COVID-19 created, which was, dude, how do I live stream? Like, even in the church, like, how do I take my church online? Like, our event is virtual this year. How do we like do virtual events now? And that's the specialty of our company. How do you do YouTube? How do you do live streaming? So it was, and we saw a natural lift when people got locked down of consuming more content. But I'll tell you, the two big moves for those listening that we did that just had massive dividends was, number one, we already create a lot of content. As soon as the lockdown happened, I shifted into wartime leader mode, wartime versus peacetime leaders. Started talking to my team that way and saying, man, we're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our families, and we're going to kind of change our dispositions and really go into, it's wartime, man. Like, let's go. And we doubled down on making content. We started multiple shows. We wanted to stay close to our customers and our community. I started a weekly show called Coffee with Cannell. I go live every week. I'm still doing it. We started a Think Media Q&A show with Heather and Melissa, and it's still going. We started an internal in one of our Facebook groups show called the VRA Show. And so we started to create more, not less, to ride the wave. And it just had massive impact on our business. We thought about how can we offer even more value. We did a 7-day challenge, 2 sessions a day, kind of like a 7-day online conference in a way. And gave away more free value than we ever have before, but also generated more sales than we ever have before. We did something like 1.6 million in on the books, and like over 1 million collected in a week and a half time. And I'm not trying to say stuff like that to, I'm sure some people listening do way more and have different business models, and some were like, oh my gosh. It just was that there was the propensity. People were going into defense mode. We went into offense mode. And that was also around, we also then were leaned into paid advertising. I think we're living through the greatest era of advertising in human history, no question about it, in terms of not only targeting and the nuances of getting in front of your ideal customer, but also in terms of even accessibility, that like from home and the management of scaling, the age of infinite scale, the management of being able to scale with, if half the world's on social media, which it is, using Google AdWords, Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, and YouTube advertising, and those 3 being the biggest that we lean into, we were able to just get in front of massive people. So when others are afraid, we started to lean in and lead and really rise up and with our message. So those are some of the big trends. And I really believe that, hidden in problems is always hidden opportunity and possibility. And so that's kind of what we started to look for, and that innovation really works best in constraints. Like we were pushed also out of, especially fear at first. I'm going to say we're so confident. It was like, oh, what's going to happen, man? Like, so we just started to double down. We didn't consume more. We lowered consumption. I would encourage people to do that. We stay informed. You got to know what's happening in the news, but man, we cut consumption way down and turned production way up. You got to create more than you consume.
What are projects you're working on right now? Then besides those, what other projects are you working on? I got one more question. I'm saving the best for last, Sean.
So right now we are, we're doing another challenge, and that's coming up. And I would highly encourage that. I think challenges are, a friend of mine, Pedro Adeo, is really the king of challenges, the challenge king, and learn from him. And we just did our first one. And I mean, man, even doing our first one, you make mistakes or whatnot, but success leaves clues. Mentorship and coaching is always the best move, because our first one went so amazing because we didn't try to figure it out on our own. And so we're doubling down and doing that again. And then it compounds. So the way we're looking at is that we have basically kind of like the NFC championship coming up, and then we'll be at the Rose Bowl, or we've got the playoffs, and then we'll be at the championship game. So we actually do a challenge in August. And then part of the offer during the challenge includes tickets to our event, which is a virtual summit this year called Grow with Video Live. That's in September. And so that has a few pre-event to onboard kind of people in terms of some bonus content, as well as we're pioneering really what it means to do a virtual experience at a highly interactive, intimate. I mean, we're living through the greatest mental health crisis, many specialists are saying right now, that maybe the world's seen, in terms of isolation, lockdown, everything that's happening. So we have, some people say, oh man, you can't meet face to face. And we're not saying it replaces that, but if we're in the situation where we believe that it's still possible to have human connection, social interaction, the technology, the software that we're using, all of that. So we're really pioneering that virtual experience. So for us, it goes challenge, it goes a few wrap-up dates, and then it goes Grow with Video Live, which is a global virtual experience. People could check it out as well on both sides, not only to learn the content, but even to think about this whole need of innovation and thinking different. The theme of the conference is rethink. You got to rethink everything right now. Rethink business, rethink sales, rethink your strategy, rethink your team, rethink in-person versus remote working. You kind of got to rethink everything. And so that's all happening. So those are the big rocks. We got a day-to-day business that's pretty dynamic with the amount of content we create, but that's the push right now. All roads are leading to our virtual summit called Grow with Video Live.
I love it. I love it. So so my final question then really is how can people, obviously people are just getting a glimpse about what you do. And I encourage everyone that, all right, you got the biggest YouTube expert, in my opinion, out there, and he lives in the Mecca in Las Vegas, where the conferences are. Hopefully he'll come back since we both live here. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to be at every conference you have that you're putting on, because he's that good, everybody. But how can people at home find you? And how can they get involved in your programs that you offer that can really take their business and their personal brand to the next level?
Yeah, if anybody wants to connect, and thank you so much. I appreciate you, Troy. And thanks for having me on and for your kind words. If anybody wants to connect, at Sean Cannell on social media, SeanEanne, 2 L's at the end there. And would love to connect with anybody, all the platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you hang out, and would love to help and answer any questions. So Sean Cannell on social media. And then Think Media on YouTube. And we have a lot of free content. Think Media and Think Marketing. We have the Think Marketing podcast. So for those that specifically want to learn how to leverage online video to grow their brands. But the final thing, as you asked, would be our core training programs called the Video Ranking Academy. And it's how to get your video showing up in search, trigger the algorithms, get your video showing up in suggested, and really build that YouTube empire so that you can have endless leads, traffic, awareness. And you could get a free session from that at tubemasterclass.com. And then at the end is our best offer at any given time for that. So that's TUBE masterclass.com. And yeah, it's like, you know, a webinar, basically kind of like an hour training where you can get a ton of free value and get an overview of really what you should be doing on YouTube. Really great place to start. And then if Video Ranking Academy is right for you or not, that is talked about at the end of that. So that's tubemasterclass.com. And I would recommend everybody listening, not only go and check that out, but maybe for the right move for a lot of people is to get, for like business owners and entrepreneurs, is to understand the strategy and like the high level and understand why this matters. But probably has a lot to do with delegation and maybe saying, like Russell Brunson says, it's not necessarily the how, it could be more about the who. Who is going to be the person in my organization, my team, my church, my nonprofit that owns YouTube, because YouTube is too important to ignore. And of course, you need to be bought in at the high level, know your part, maybe be on camera. But a lot of people listening should probably get the who appointed to run their YouTube strategy for them and put that who through all of our stuff, man. And then you'll be unstoppable.
Well, his name's Sean Cannell, Think Media. We appreciate you coming on the show, Sean. And, you know, hold up your book too, by the way, YouTube Secrets. This is the guy. I'm telling you, I mean, it's just amazing wealth of knowledge. I mean, you're just getting a piece, a small flavor, not even an appetizer of what this gentleman can teach you. So I encourage everybody that, hey, listen, like he said, ABC, CBS, NBC is now YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and there's certain advantages, absolutely, that YouTube has over all of them for reasons that you just said. So we want to thank you, Sean, for coming on here, and we hope to have you back, and I'll see you at church, hopefully, really soon, and God bless. Have a good one.
I love it, Troy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.